Okay, today I'm going to start with a bit of a rant. I'm reading the news here, and I'm reading the election address by UKIP candidate for Aycliffe East, and the whole letter is pretty grim, but the worst thing he says is here, quote, "The controlling Labour group on the council have closed Durham Light Infantry Museum." These things make my blood boil. How many times have I been to the news to explain that that is not the case? We have not closed the museum, we have just closed the building. Okay? Now, here's the old building. It is undeniable that it is in the most beautiful setting. But when people start bemoaning the loss of this wonderful building, the first thing I have to ask them is, how do you get there? Tell me how you get to that building. And nobody in Newton Aycliffe has a clue. It is most obscurely situated. And when you ask them and they're unable to do that, the next question is, and when did you last go? And the simple truth of the matter is that most people in Newton Aycliffe have never been. And here they are getting outraged about a loss of a facility. They didn't know where it was and they'd never been. And one of the outcomes of that was that, in fact, numbers of visitors was fairly low. It was about 40,000 a year. Now, that isn't a disaster, but it is not good. It is not what we would have wanted. And sort of in addition to that, when you look at the building itself, it was just a 1960s box. And sort of it was beginning to become maintenance-wise more of a burden, as you might appreciate looking at this picture. Worse than that, though, however, was what was going on inside the building, because the facilities they had for the conservation and the preservation of the collection of the uniforms and the artifacts, they were not modern. They were a bit out of date. They weren't doing as good a job at conserving as preserving as you might well want. And the other thing is the display. It had been 20 years since it had been completely refurbished, and it was coming around to the point where it would need a revamp. Nobody's saying that that building couldn't have staggered on, but it was in need of some action. And that was why the county council got together with the trustees of the DLI. This was not something that was just designed. It was taken after consultation with the trustees of the DLI and with a body called the O'Gilby Trust, which looks after all the army museums in the country, and which, by the way, expressed itself delighted with the outcome of what was decided to happen. The big failure, and really actually it's unforgivable, is this: they forgot to consult the DLI associations around the county, and the result was that a lot of former DLI soldiers were suddenly confronted with change, and they unsurprisingly reacted very negatively. There was this explosion of anger, and we were accused of all kinds of things. What I've got to say about that is just that there was no plan to sell the land for building businesses and factories on. That was not what was it about. I cannot guarantee that the footprint won't get a new building because it's a brownfield site, but the land in which it's set is protected green space, and it will remain protected green space whatever happens to the rest of that Akeley Head site, should we knock down the council buildings and give it to high class business, which is the plan for the rest of the site. Where your loved ones' ashes are, that will stay as beautiful woodland and open land, and you can almost certainly guarantee that there's going to be some kind of memorial, so it can be a place of veneration for those who have indeed given their lives for our country. But the second thing I would say is that what we have set up there instead of that rather dated building is top notch, and it has three elements. One, at Seven Hills in Spennymoor, there is a top class building where the collection is preserved and conserved. It's not meant for display, there's a tiny display, but it's meant for people to go and do research, and you can book in and you can make an appointment and you can go and see it if you want to look into something. In terms of display for public consumption, we've got a room on Palace Green in between the cathedral and the castle. Now, 2/3 people visit Palace Green every year, and there in the middle is the new DLI gallery. I know it's smaller in terms of floor space, but one, it's right on hand for all those crowds, and two, the collection will be regularly renewed. It will be kept fresh, and I'm told it's very good. The current collection, which I have to admit I haven't yet been to see myself, is called Courage, Comrades, Community, and if you care about the DLI, stop moaning at me about closing the museum, go along there and see the display. That would be my word to you. But the third thing we've done is I think even better still. What we've done is that we've set up an outreach facility, and staff of the museum will go out to community groups, and they give a little talk about what the DLA is about and its history, and then they let you get hands-on with some of the artifacts and exhibits which they bring down and let you pass round and handle. That was criticised in the Newton News as being fairly shallow. I have been to that session, and I found it far from shallow. It wasn't academic, but the key fact was that the two people who knew nothing about the DLI when they went to that session came out buzzing. They thought it was great, and they'd been alerted to an absolutely vital part of this county's history about which they knew nothing before, with the old setup. Now, these outreach sessions cost £30 a kick, and that is why your Aycliffe candidates, our promise number 8 is that we will provide financial support to allow local organisations to host DLI outreach sessions. Well, that says, in other words, is that we'll pay. If you want them, if you run a scout group or a mothers union or a local support group, and you want you're wondering what to lay on, and you think that'd be nice to have those people from the DLI to talk about the DLI, get in touch with us. We'll arrange them to come, and we will pay for it. You can have them free. And you say, well, why are you doing this? Here's the score. Durham County Council never proposed to close the DLI. Durham County Council is committed to the DLI. Durham County Council wants more from the DLI. It wants its name to be commonplace across the country, and it wants people from all over the world to come and see just how wonderful the DLI is. And that's what Durham County Council is committed to, and we are committed to that too. And we want our local residents to be aware of this gem of heritage which we have within our midst. And that is what's so annoying because we're getting absolutely attacked. We've spent tens and tens of thousands setting up the new system, and we are desperate for people to become aware of it, and hopefully we will be able to play our part. Thank you for listening.